By the year 2169, humans are genetically engineered to stop aging at 25. Once they reach this age, a timer appears on their arm, counting down from 1 year. To survive, they must earn time, as it has become the world's currency. The rich are essentially immortal, while the poor struggle daily. Meanwhile, in the ghetto, Will lives with his mother, Rachel, in a tiny apartment. They barely have enough time to survive each day. Will considers earning extra through time fighting, but Rachel forbids it, warning that it never ends well. Despite their struggles, Will remains generous. He often gives time to Maya, a young girl in the neighborhood, to help her survive. Will and his best friend, Burrell, work in a local factory, where prices keep rising, and many workers time out on the job. Workers are paid daily, but the factory often cuts wages, claiming unmet quotas. One evening, Will visits a bar to collect an hour owed to him. There, he meets Burrell, who is drinking thanks to a man buying rounds for everyone. The man, Henry, has a century on his timer. Will is suspicious of why a rich man is in the ghetto and warns him about the Minutemen, a gang that steals time. Henry doesn't listen, and soon, gang leader Fortis arrives, challenging him to a time fight. The bar clears out, leaving Will hiding in the back. Henry accepts Fortis' challenge, but asks for a bathroom break. When only one guard follows him, Will seizes the moment, knocking out the thug and escaping with Henry through the back door. They flee several blocks and hide in an abandoned factory, which Will locks for the night. Curious about Henry's presence in the ghetto, Will listens as Henry confesses that, at 105 years old, he's tired of living. Will calls this idea foolish, but Henry laughs at his ignorance. He explains that the system ensures the poor die, keeping the rich alive. The cost of living rises intentionally to maintain this balance. Eventually, they both fall asleep. In the morning, Henry wakes first and transfers all his time to Will, keeping only 5 minutes for himself. Will wakes to find a message on the window. "Don't waste my time." Looking outside, he sees Henry on a bridge just before he times out. Unaware of security cameras, Will runs to check Henry's body, then flees. Later, he visits Burrell's house, surprising him with a decade's worth of time, 1 year for each year of their friendship. That evening, Will waits at a bus stop for Rachel, but she never arrives. She only had an hour and a half left, but bus fares increased, making her trip unaffordable. Now, Rachel must walk 2 hours home, but she won't make it unless she runs. Realizing this, Will also starts running toward her. They reach each other in the street, but it's too late. Rachel times out in his arms. The next morning, timekeepers find Henry's body in the river. Agent Leon suspects he was murdered for his time and orders a security footage review. The cameras don't capture the fall, but do reveal Will's face, making him the prime suspect. Meanwhile, Will, devastated by Rachel's death, decides to take action. He hires a limo, pretending to be a lost rich man, and heads to New Greenwich, paying massive tolls at every border. Once there, he checks into a luxury hotel, catching the attention of socialite Sylvia Weiss. While eating, he notices Sylvia watching him. The waitress, sensing he's an outsider, warns that he'll need better clothes for the casino. Meanwhile, Will's sudden movement through multiple time zones raises suspicions in the system, alerting the timekeepers. Agent Leon also recognizes Will's name. He once chased his father. That evening, Will buys a suit and enters the casino, where non-members must donate a year to play. He joins a poker table with Sylvia's father, Philippe Weiss, a powerful time loan businessman. Sylvia watches as Will risks everything on a final bet. He wins, impressing Weiss, who invites him to a party. The next day, Will arrives in an expensive car, drawing Sylvia's interest. She invites him to dance, admitting she envies the poor for their freedom. Will then suggests doing something reckless. They sneak away to the beach, where Will convinces Sylvia to go skinny dipping. Initially hesitant, she joins him, and they discuss taking bigger risks. When people start searching for Sylvia, they hide in a cave. She asks Will to return before they get caught. They sneak back into the mansion separately. Weiss invites Will to another poker match, but the timekeepers suddenly arrive, tracking Will through his car purchase. Will is taken for questioning. He insists Henry gave him the time willingly, but they don't believe him. They confiscate most of his time, leaving him with only 2 hours. Leon warns Will that he reminds him of his father. Will doesn't remember Leon well. Weiss and Sylvia arrive to check the situation, giving Will a chance to attack the timekeepers. He overpowers them, takes a gun, and escapes. Using the gun, Will grabs Sylvia as a hostage. They flee through the back door and escape in Will's car. Leon pursues them, hitting Will's car from behind. Will drives in reverse, avoiding a truck at the last second, but Leon crashes. This allows Will to escape. As they head to the ghetto, Will asks Sylvia for time, but she refuses. When they reach a bridge, Will gets distracted by security cameras and doesn't see a spike strip. The car crashes, knocking both unconscious. Minutes later, Fortis and his gang find them and begin stealing Sylvia's time. The sound of timekeeper's sirens forces the gang to flee, leaving Sylvia with only 30 minutes. When she wakes, she panics and asks Will for help. He finds it ironic but gives her time before taking her into town. Meanwhile, the timekeepers inspect the car. Leon, needing his daily pay, requests more time. Deciding Will contact him first, he stops the chase. Will visits Borel for help, but Greta informs him that Borel drank himself to death, leaving 9 years on his timer. Sylvia panics again, but Will notices her earrings and takes her to a pawn shop. The owner, seeing their desperation, offers only 2 days for the valuable jewelry. They reluctantly accept. At a payphone, Will makes Sylvia call home so he can talk to Leon. He demands 1,000 years be distributed to the ghetto's timelines. Leon warns Will he's becoming like his father and reveals his father wasn't killed in a time fight but for something more dangerous. Will hangs up. Leon informs Sylvia's parents, but Weiss hesitates to pay. That night, Will takes Sylvia to his apartment. She changes into Rachel's old clothes and asks about Will's father. Will explains his dad was a skilled time fighter who taught him tricks. He demonstrates by holding Sylvia's arm, showing how time fighting is a battle of wills. His father's tactic was to let his opponent think they had the upper hand before reversing the fight at the last second. Will once believed his father died in a time fight, but now realizes he was likely killed for giving away his winnings. He and Sylvia share stories of turning 25. Will was on the streets, almost losing his extra year due to debt, while Sylvia woke peacefully and received a decade from her father. The next morning, Will checks the timeline building but finds no charity. The ransom wasn't paid. Sylvia, hurt by her father's indifference, realizes he gained wealth by exploiting others. Will tells her to go home, but she refuses. They agree to work together and kiss. Sylvia wants to call home, so Will gives her a gun for protection. From a distance, he watches as Weiss picks up the call. Sylvia insults him, but Weiss warns her that timekeepers are coming. She turns to see Leon approaching Will and shoots him in the arm. Will checks Leon's timer, realizing timekeepers carry minimal time to deter theft. Will gives Leon time so his team can save him. As Will and Sylvia escape in Leon's car, Leon walks through town, facing angry citizens who accuse him of failing them. Another timekeeper rescues him before violence erupts. Later, Sylvia points out they can't keep driving a stolen cop car. Will gets an idea and impersonates a timekeeper to stop another car. They steal a rich woman's earrings and time, leaving her with only a day before fleeing. Far from town, they stop to watch the news and discover they are now wanted criminals. Will again tells Sylvia to leave, but she refuses. Meanwhile, Weiss reassures investors, claiming control. Leon informs him Sylvia is no longer a hostage but a criminal. Weiss tries to bribe Leon, but he refuses, warning that if Sylvia contacts him, he must inform the authorities or be arrested as an accomplice. Later, Sylvia asks if Will would still give away time if he had it. When he confirms, she proposes a plan. They steal a Weiss money truck and crash it into a time bank, taking as many time capsules as possible. The remaining capsules are left for the people in the ghetto. When the timekeepers arrive, there is nothing left. That evening, Will leaves a time capsule in Greta's laundry as an apology. He also visits Maya, who sleeps on the streets, and gives her extra time. The rest of the stolen time is taken to the timeline for distribution. At the timekeeper's office, Leon notices time appearing where it shouldn't be and worries. The next morning, Fortis tries to rob a man but is surprised when the victim fights back with a gun. Pretending to let him go, Fortis then shoots him anyway. Will and Sylvia continue robbing time banks, making headlines. Weiss wonders if Sylvia wants him dead, but his wife reminds him he nearly killed her first by suffocating her with his system. A week later, Leon and his men find Will's apartment. As they prepare to arrest him, jumping through a window at the back of the building and landing safely on a car. Leon follows and chases them through town. Will and Sylvia take to the rooftops, with Leon firing at them. Will shoots back but misses. They get off the roofs and board a bus. The driver considers turning them in but accepts a bribe. They leave Leon behind. A few hours later, they check into a hotel, paying extra for privacy. The receptionist is instructed not to tell anyone. However, he manages to catch a glimpse of Will and Sylvia heading upstairs. Later, Fortis and his men begin threatening people on the streets, searching for information about Will and Sylvia. At first, the people remain silent, wanting to protect their saviors. But when Fortis kills a man to prove he is serious, the hotel worker confesses what he saw. At the hotel, Will and Sylvia discover that the bounty on their heads is 10 years, which they find insulting. Suddenly, Fortis and his men burst into the room, holding the couple at gunpoint. He explains that the timekeepers leave him alone because he steals from his own people, so now he must restore order. He claims he does not enjoy killing in cold blood and challenges Will to a time fight. Will uses the trick his father taught him. When Henry begins looking at his timer, Will seizes the moment and starts taking all his time, giving Will the chance to shoot them all before he forces Fortis to time out. By the time the timekeepers arrive at the hotel, Will and Sylvia have already disappeared. A few hours later, Will notices that prices and loan rates are rising faster to compensate for the extra time circulating on the streets. Their small robberies are not making a real difference. The next day, Weiss grows anxious about the situation and arrives at work, surrounded by more bodyguards than usual. Suddenly, the guards detect a possible threat and turn around, only to find Sylvia, who announces that she wants to surrender. Believing her, Weiss prepares to take her back, but this distraction allows Will to sneak behind and take him hostage. They force Weiss into his office, making him open his safe, where he keeps a capsule containing 1 million years. Weiss argues that giving a year to 1 million people will only prolong their suffering and that flooding the wrong zone with such a fortune could destabilize the system. After locking Weiss in his own office, Will and Sylvia escape. When the timekeepers learn about the heist, they immediately pursue them, blocking the bridge to prevent their return to the ghetto. Leon also joins the chase, but in his intense focus on them, he forgets to collect his daily time pay. The timekeepers open fire, but Will ignores the bullets and drives straight through the time zone barrier, making it to the ghetto. Leon wastes no time and crashes his car into theirs. Will immediately exits the vehicle and hands the capsule containing 1 million years to Maya. Then, he and Sylvia pretend to surrender. A smug Leon believes he has won. Just then, the timeline announces that there is now enough time for everyone. An eager crowd floods the streets, blocking Leon's path and giving Will and Sylvia a chance to escape. But once Will and Sylvia cross another time barrier, he is forced to chase them on foot. Eventually, he catches up to them, and Will correctly guesses that Leon, too, was once from the ghetto. Leon confirms it, explaining that he worked hard to climb out, just as it should be. Will points out that there is no point since he and Sylvia only have a few minutes left, meaning they will soon die anyway. In that instant, his clock times out, and he collapses, dead. Will and Sylvia have only seconds left, preparing to say goodbye. Suddenly, Will realizes that the keeper's vehicles contain time reserves. He rushes to Leon's car to take some for himself. Sylvia, slower than him, fears she will not make it, but Will races back, meeting her halfway, and they manage to share time just before it is too late. At the company, Weiss has given up. He tells his employees to stand down because it is over. News broadcasts across the country show people taking to the streets. Authorities insist that everything is under control, but the truth is clear, the system is on the verge of collapse. At the timekeeper's office, the staff decides to leave, knowing there is nothing more they can do. Will and Sylvia are never caught. Instead, they continue targeting even bigger banks, ensuring the old system never returns. And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit the like button, it really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting story. More thrilling recaps are on the way, and you won't want to miss them. Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite moment from this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.